Great. So we're going to jump into Moloch and the recent changes. And one of the biggest changes is I think we've almost doubled in size this year in the MolochON compared to last year. So that's very exciting. I'm glad everybody can make it out. I think we have a lot of good talks today. Some of them are a little bit of a repeat from last year, but most of them are all brand new. So it should be good. So what did we do this year since the last MolochON? Well, the biggest thing we did is Moloch 1.0. We're going to talk about that. Really spent a lot of time on capture stability. Previously, we were having some issues with crashes, or it just wasn't getting all the packets, or all kinds of issues. Talk more about that. IPv6. Lots of people have been asking for IPv6 forever, and now everything in Moloch is IPv6 aware and supports it. And we have slides for the rest, so we'll go through them. Okay, Moloch 1.0. This was the big change. It was a little bit of painful change. People did not like the previous field names. They're all like 1 and 2 character names. They were hard to use in Kibana. They were hard to use with tools. You just didn't know what was going. So we decided to rename all the fields. And so that required a re-indexing. And that was a lot of pain for some people with big clusters, including ourselves, but we made it through it. Hopefully most of you have made it through it. Who is not on 1.0 yet? Who will raise their hand? Shame, shame, shame. Yeah, so that's on there too. We know one of the things we did is we got rid of all of the analyzed fields because people were getting confused by them, because sometimes an S would be removed at the end and sometimes it wouldn't. I know for the URL field that didn't happen, but for all the other fields it did. And so this is something we're going to add back in. But that was another big change. Also, getting both ES5 and 6 supported was a big change. And we switched the country codes from 3 characters to 2 characters, which for most people was not a big deal, but I know some people had a lot of scripts and were just used to typing 3-character country codes, and they're now all 2-character. That was mainly because MaxMind itself, which is our database for geo stuff, was depreciating their old API, which supported the 3, and moving to the 2 countries. So we had to move. We didn't really have a choice. Capture changes this year. We added a lot of new classifiers. A classifier to review is something that just tells you what that session is. It doesn't actually decode it, but we added, I think, around 30 new classifiers this year, so it's easier when you look at all the different sessions to see what protocols are in there. We added MAC address lookups. That was a common request, so you can now go to your sessions and look and see what Ethernet cards are being used. You can now reload all of the configuration files except for the main one on the fly. It happens for you. If you just change the file, it will automatically reload. You no longer have to restart the process. Seracotta plugin is new. I have a slide on that in just a second. And one of the big changes that a lot of people have requested, which I don't know if it's actually needed, but is we now support auto-generated Elasticsearch IDs. So this means it's currently a switch and it's currently off, but it means that Elasticsearch will generate the IDs for the documents instead of having us generate them ourselves. And there's some efficiencies with that. Capture stability. So we upgraded our compiler for everybody. We're now on GNU 99, so we're almost recent, right? But it used to be like using a standard from who knows how long ago. But that's added some new features that we can use, and it's on all of the different systems that we support still. We've spent a lot of time, like I mentioned before, on stability fixes, making sure capture doesn't crash or have any memory issues, and we are using 2 tools to support that. A great thing with the new compiler is that it supports what's called the sanitize option. And the sanitize option will check memory. It will do look for buffer overflows, look for integer overflows, null pointer stuff, and it will tell you as you're running that's happening. So if you've ever used Purify, the old school tool, or Valgrind, new school tool, it's similar to those, except that it's done at compile time. It's instrumenting the code instead of another tool that tries to guess what's happening. So it's able to hook in a lot better. And we actually are using this in all of our builds. So our builds, when they run all of our test data, now use the sanitize build. And we also have a couple of lab settings, production settings where we're running it. So we're running against real traffic now and finding issues. And so 1.6 which we just released this week, has a lot of fixes in it for stability in it. And then we're also using this tool called CPP check, which does a basic static analysis. It's lint for the new world. You can think about it. So the Seracotta plugin was a request from many, many people. It's how can we integrate Seracotta into Moloch? And so we chose a very simple way, which is we just watch either the Eve or alerts.json files for new alerts to be written out. This means that Moloch and Seracotta usually have to be on the same machine or have to at least share the same file system where it can watch the file for changing for Seracotta. It's not a Seracotta UI. So one of the requests that, or confusion, I guess, is a lot of people think that we've somehow magically added UI to Seracotta. That's not what this is at all. All we're doing is enriching sessions with Seracotta data. And I have a screenshot in just a second, but it's not a Seracotta UI, just so that we're clear on that. So boom, all it is a new section that just shows the Seracotta information when you open up your session in Moloch. That's all it's doing. But now you can search on it. So you can now say, show me all of the ET policy HTTP hits. Show me all of the things that use this flow ID or all of the things that use this signature ID. And it works with SpyView, it works with SpyGraph, it works everywhere else that things normally work. WISE. This year, we've spent a little bit of time on WISE. For next year, we're going to spend a lot more time on WISE. But the biggest change that we made, yes, William. With, oh, it's in my other slide. With intelligence, see everything, yes. Oh, you'll have to wait for the next slide. You'll have to come back at 12. Basically, WISE allows you to aggregate intelligence feeds into a single feed into Moloch. So you hook up all your different intelligence feeds into WISE, such as we support a bunch, ThreatStream, I'm blanking, OpenDNS, Alien Vault, and then you can have your own, like you can go against Splunk, you can go against Elasticsearch, you can go against files, you can go against URLs, a bunch of different things. Speaking of Splunk, Splunk is a new data source that we added this year where WISE can now talk to Splunk because Splunk is amazing. And we do have a Splunk expert, at least one, because I saw some Splunk shirts too. But Josh right there raised his hand, loves Splunk. He's all about Splunk. And then I saw a Splunk shirt. There we go. Got some more Splunk people. So if you want to talk to Splunk, they, I'm sure, would love to talk about Splunk all day. What else? Oh, more than 255 fields. I don't know if they're here, but someone made it so they can feed bro data directly into Moloch. And they do this through WISE and other things. It's craziness, but it's very cool. So that required that you can have more than 255 fields going back from WISE to Moloch. And did I miss anything? Oh, supporting any field. So Taylor, there he is, was like, I want to be able to have any field in WISE. And so we did that. And so now if there's something that WISE doesn't support, so by default, it used to only support IP addresses, URLs, MD5s, SHAs, and JAWs. Maybe that's it. Email. Now you can do any field. So any field can be processed by WISE. So you can say, I want to send MAC addresses to WISE and have a database of MAC addresses that are good, bad, indifferent, and send information back. Viewer. So in Viewer, we made some big changes. One of them is we moved from Angular to Vue. So if you remember, it used to be jQuery. Last year we announced we were going to Angular, and this year we went to Vue, mainly because Angular was not as performant as we had hoped. There was a lot of pages that were kind of slow. And in the JavaScript, yeah, in the JavaScript world, if you're not rewriting your app every year, you're not doing it right. So yes, so next year React or something. So we'll see. Now, hopefully Vue looks like we're going to be able to stick on it for at least another year. Right? Is that how it goes? But there's always something new. The hotness is hard to track. We added lots of stats pages, so you can now have more insight into what's going on in your clusters, especially your Elasticsearch cluster. Packet search, we're going to have a demo of that in a little bit. You can now share your views. So one person create views and they can share it with everybody. So your views aren't locked down to just you. You don't have to copy and paste them or anything. You can now share them. And my favorite is keyboard shortcuts. Yay.
So I'm just going to demo some of the items that Andy mentioned, and a few more that he didn't. So first of all, I do want to talk about the Vue.js rewrite. This took me quite a while, but I think it was worth it. Specifically, the sessions page, if you had more than 100 or 200 sessions, sometimes the page would lag with the Angular app. Sometimes scrolling was difficult. So now all of those problems have been fixed with Vue. And some other small tweaks that I did for the clickable fields and stuff. So that's been extremely helpful. It's increased the page load for all pages by up to 100%. And then specifically this page, it's helped a lot in just general time to first interaction. So now if you have, 200 items, rather than it being weird to scroll and being all laggy, it's much smoother. Another thing that I added, it's small but cool. This little time at the bottom tells you how long the last query to get this particular data for this page was. This is not page load time or anything. This is time from when I sent the request to the server until it came back with a response. So you can see if stuff's slow. Another thing that specifically William badgered me for at least a year are keyboard shortcuts. So we're trying to help with accessibility and generally make your workflow a little bit better here. So if you hold the shift key, you can see, I don't know if you can see it on the slides or the screen, but it highlights all the things you can do. If you hit the question mark, it pulls out this little handy reference to tell you what all you can do. These are the items that exist now. Please add feature requests for other short keys or hotkeys that you might think would be necessary. I'll call out some of the big ones. Specifically, Shift-Enter will issue a query on that page. Any page that issues a query with a search bar, Shift-Enter will refresh that page with new data. So if the time has changed or anything like that. Another thing that was added, not by me, by an outside contributor, so we're always looking for more contributors, is if you go to an HTTP session, you can actually download the file here. So that's something that is kind of hidden behind the scenes, but so everyone knows it's there. Another thing that we added is fields or data that used to be a giant select box. I've added type aheads, so you can search for the field that you're looking for here, rather than searching through a giant select box. You can, it's a little bit easier and a little bit nicer to find what you're looking for, because there's a lot of fields now. Next, we have, in addition, I think Taylor as well asked for this feature, was adding your custom column configuration to your view. So as you may know, you can edit your columns on your sessions table to be whatever you want, whatever fields that exist. And so you can go around and you can modify your table. You can resize items in your table. You can move items around in the table. So columns can be reordered, resized, removed, and added. And then what you can do is you can go and create a new view. Now, I don't know if everyone knows, but views are ways to add a query expression on top of whatever you're currently searching for. So like if you're in a workflow, you might want to only be searching for a specific subset of data. So this is an easy way to add it without adding it into the search bar. So if you add a view and apply your view, you can search within that subset of data more easily. So let's create a new view. And here, I'm going to click the Save Columns toggle. And what this is going to do is it's going to save the columns in this particular table so that if I ever apply this view, then I can also reload the table to only show these columns. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Okay, what I was going to mention is the thought process behind the request was, since it was added that you can add now ingest your Seracotta alerts. If you're looking for, say, you have a view something simple like signature ID equals exists exclamation point. So you're just looking for anything that was tagged with a Seracotta field. Now, instead of having some information that's not pertinent up there, um, you can now add things in there, for instance, the alert name or so on and so forth that was tagged with it. So that way you have a nice, pretty view if you don't want to set up a Kibana dashboard.
Awesome. Thanks for that addition.
Woo!
So I'm going to click this button, and we're going to save these columns with this view. Sorry, guys, got to reload the page. My cookie expired. So now that I've created this view with those columns saved, I'm going to go back to the default columns. So now if I apply this view, it's going to go back to these columns. So this is a great way, like you said, to view only pertinent information. Another thing you could possibly do is go to your settings, go to your views, and now I can share this view with anyone else who has access to this Moloch instance. So I'm going to share that view. And now we can go look at another user. This is a non-admin user. I'm going to go look at their views. And now they can see this view. They're not an admin, and they didn't create this view. So they can't update this view. They can't edit it. They can't delete it. However, they can apply it to any query they want in Moloch now. So that's a nice way. You don't have to copy and paste to share views. You can just share views to anyone who has access to that Moloch instance. And then only the user who created that view or admins can edit it. So next, I'm going to show you something that was also contributed. I don't know if Keith is here, but Keith contributed this. He's on our Oath team. Ah. No, you are the only Keith. So he contributed this. It's pretty awesome. If you go to the connections page and say you want to like show your manager something that's super important, you can drag your jiggle graph, as Keith calls it, around to display the information that you want, and then you can export this graph as a PNG file. So you don't have to take a screenshot, you don't have to do weird stuff, you can actually export a PNG file. So that's super nice, and thank you, Keith. As Andy mentioned earlier, we also have a bunch of changes to the stats page. So we wanted to give you more access to all of this Elasticsearch data. We took the capture graphs and capture stats pages and put them in different tabs. So now that information is a little more digestible. It's not just one on top of the other. You don't have to scroll through everything to find what you're looking for. You can still do the same stuff with those, with the addition of these tables are also customizable now. So you can add any fields that the server sends back as data, You can remove fields. You can fit your table to the screen. You can reorder the columns. You can resize the columns. So anything pretty much you can do in the sessions table, you can now do in these tables. We also added the ES nodes table, and this also, if you're an admin, has actions associated with it. So if a row has actionable items, you'll get this little drop down, and you can do stuff with it as long as you're an admin. The ES indices page is pretty awesome. It shows you all your indices and what's going on with them. Again, if they're actionable items and you're an admin, you can do stuff with them. ES tasks page is also pretty awesome. So we added this because some users might run a query that takes forever. And it's either never going to complete or it's going to take a long time and slow everything down. So what we did is we added this page, and if you have a cancelable task in Elasticsearch, you can actually come here, and if you're an admin, you can remove those tasks that are taking too long or something you didn't mean to do. So you can actually cancel tasks via this tab. And then Andy's favorite tab, which is my least favorite tab, because we have so many shards that this page just, even with the rewrite, even with everything, this page is still slow. So I'm sorry. If you have a lot of stuff on this page, it's just going to be slow. Maybe someday I can look into how to improve it, but so far it's just been a cluster. Anyway, so here you can see all your Elasticsearch shards. And the ones that are the purple color in this theme are your primary shards. The gray ones are replicates. And anything that's outlined, I don't know if you can see it, in that like yellow dotted border, those are unassigned shards. And so you can mouse over and see more information about each one.
When your cluster is recovering, this is a very useful page, because you can see what's happening. Like for this demo instance, it's kind of boring because there's only one node and it's not even named well. But
that's a great name.
Yeah. Maybe later we'll be able to, when we're not recording, maybe we can show you a better version of this. But usually you'll have, tens of nodes and you'll have lots more shards.
And it scrolls forever and ever and ever. So I saved the best for last. We have a whole new tab, the Hunt tab. So this is packet searching. You can search sessions for keywords, regex, lots of different stuff. So here you can see there's no packet search jobs in my history. So let's go ahead and I'll show you how to create one and run one and then see what you can do with it. So first, what I generally would tell people to do is go to the sessions page, run a query for what you want to search for, and that's going to tell you how many sessions you're searching for. So right now, we're in test data land. I have 258 sessions. I'm going to go ahead and search all of them. But you might want to narrow this down because it can take a really long time if you're searching through a lot of packets. So this will warn you. It'll say, hey, maybe you don't want to run it on 10,000 sessions. And I think we have a cap of 100,000 sessions. You cannot search more than 100,000 sessions. So you'd need to break up your packet search jobs into chunks. So this top part tells you how much you're going to be searching through. And then this is a little reminder saying, hey, make sure you searched the right things. So I'm going to create a search job that I know is going to return results. I know we have coconuts in our packets. So I'm going to name my search job. And this is the max number of packets to examine. So you can search all of them, first 50 packets, up to you. The more you search, the longer it's going to take. And I'm just going to search for coconut. And you can see there's options on what you want to search for. Make sure your regex is a good regex, otherwise it'll return an error and tell you you need to figure that out. You can search source or destination packets or both, and then raw or reassembled. So I'm going to create this job. It's going to run real quick because this is test data. So it's going to go into my job queue first, and then it's going to hop down to my history. So this is completed. This is my finished job, and it tells me how many matches I've got, who created it. Admins can view everyone's hunts. Not admins can only view their own hunts. You can click on this little plus button and it shows you more information about your hunt. So this one's been finished. It tells you when it was last updated. As you can see, this didn't take very long because it was created at this time and updated 1 second later. So it took 1 second to run. And then it tells you basically all the things that you configured. It tells you that information here, as well as your time range and your query. If you have a query in your search bar, it'll show it here. And it tells you how many it found. So now, what would you want to do with these? You might want to see all the sessions that matched, so you can open that up. You might also want to rerun this job on another subset of data. So you can click this button. All that does is just populate that information back up in the Create Hunt Job area, and then you can run that against whatever additional searches that you want. And then you can delete it from your history. This is not going to remove the fields that we added to the session. So what we do is we add fields to the sessions that match, that say the hunt ID and the hunt name, so that you can search in the future for those hunts. So delete just removes this from the history. It does not remove those fields from the sessions that we added. So I'm going to open this up. And these are our 4 sessions that had coconut in the packets. In addition to, basically all that did is open up a new session tab with hunt ID equals whatever hunt ID was as the query. In addition, you can see we added fields, hunt IDs and hunt names. And maybe you want to search multiple things for coconut. So you have multiple hunt jobs. So you can also search via the hunt name as well. So that's it for my demo. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
The ES nodes stats page, what does that look like for multi-ES? Is it consistent?
The this one?
No, the shards.
No, for multi, that's just not even displayed.
Yeah. The indices, tasks, and shards page are not displayed for multi-viewer. Any other questions about the demo?
One thing I found that, I mean, the demo Moloch, it is not, I mean, deployed with the latest build. So I was wondering, I mean, every time you guys give a release, so if you update that one, so it is easier for us to go and check out the feature instead of download the package and install it on our system. So what is your thought on that?
Yes, we want to do that. We're going to do that. Right now, we're in the middle of switching where it runs. And honestly, I've just been lazy about getting it working. So we're going to do that. What actually we want to do is have 1 or 2 versions. We want to have the latest release and the latest commit version so that people can demo either one. It's on our list of things to do. Real quick, can you go to the users tab? So one thing I wanted to point out is you can control who can search, who can use the hunt stuff. It's a checkbox now. So if you go install this, your old users probably do not have this checked. So don't like freak out. Oh, my hunt tab's not working. You probably just need to go turn it on for each of your users. And then I just really go back to hunt real quick also. this is a very cool and powerful feature. I think we haven't done a very good job announcing it until now. This is also just kind of like the first version, so we're waiting for feedback. Definitely, we want some feedback of what people think of it and how they think it should work. This is how we kind of thought it should work. And one of the things that Elyse talked about, and I just wanted to double say, is there's two things added to every session that matches. There's the name, which does not have to be unique. And so you could create multiple jobs all called coconut, and all of them would be tagged coconut that matched. And then there's the ID, and that is unique per search that you do. And so if you ran this multiple times, each one would get new IDs, but would have the same name. And so you can choose when you go back to search which one you want to actually look at. Do you want to see, like, you ran it 5 times, you want to just see coconut, and it doesn't matter that it was 5 different times, it doesn't matter which hunt you did, or you can choose to see it, oh, I want to just see it the one time I ran it this time.
Modify the search so that you can also search for lime.
I don't think the test data has lime, but
Ha ha.
we're ignoring your joke.
So I had one last question. If you're looking at views as well, do views transition to hunt ID packets that have been identified?
Are you asking here when you do the search, is the view used? Yes.
When you click through the packets from the so in other words, when you open the packet session on the right hand side with the little pink purple folder and it pops them up, is it the latest view that was applied to the hunt packets or no?
I'm not sure I'm going to answer your question right. Since we're adding the tags to the sessions that matched when you use the view, when you search, it's going to be just like a normal search. It no longer matters that it's a hunt. It's like a field that's been added to every session now. And so it's going to use whatever view you have selected when you do that follow-up one. If you just click it from here, then yes, it's going to be the same view. But if you came back later and had a different view, it's not going to switch to the view that you used for the search, for the hunt. It's going to just use your current view. So you could further reduce it. I mean, I guess it doesn't really, let's talk about it, but it's not really, doesn't make sense to me, because what you're doing is this is just adding 2 new fields to all the sessions that match. And you're not going back to the hunt. I mean, I guess this could, if you clicked here and did it, it could add the view. But you could also just click sessions right now, and you could just type in hunt name equals coconuts. You could just type that in, and then it would have no clue what views you meant, because you could also say hunt name equal coconut or hunt name equal coconut or hunt name equal lime, and then it wouldn't know which one view to use or whatever. Am I answering your question, or? Okay.
Just play with it, and if it doesn't work the way you think it should,
yeah,
make an issue about it.
Maybe with the metadata for the hunt, and the kind of theme of your little thing at the bottom there is just maybe add a how long it took to run the hunt.
Yeah, that's something that I do want to add. However, I found it difficult considering you can pause a job. So I need to keep track of, like, not just how long since you created it, but then the pause time. So I thought that was kind of hard, so I skipped that. And Andy was on board with that, but that is something that we can add in the future for sure.
Because this is the test data, everything runs really fast. But what would happen is, as you're running multiple hunts, they would all stack up on the top, and you would see which one's currently running and which are queued, and you can pause them, and so that a different one runs, and et cetera, et cetera. So it does make it a little bit harder.
So one quick question. So is the hunt job is like the cron job, like say for example, if I close the browser, so it's keep running on the nodes?
Yeah.
It's running on the nodes.
So and any suggestion like how many capture nodes or viewer nodes should run the hunt job like the cron
You
job?
should just have one.
Only
It's
one.
actually running on the same one that the cron jobs run on.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and the cron jobs flag is what enables this. So you have to have that enabled to be able to use hunts.
And currently, it's very conservative. It only allows one hunt job to run at a time. We probably will add some options later to make it so that if you want to take the risk up that, but we're always worried about read performance on your capture nodes. You don't want to. I'm sorry, we're worried about the write performance on your capture nodes, and you don't want to spend too much time reading all that PCAP and running like 10 of them in parallel. So definitely there's some work there. Like once we start getting feedback, oh, this is too slow, how can we make it faster? Or our nodes aren't doing anything, we like a button where we could say, run 10 at a time instead of just one at a time, et cetera, et cetera. Taylor.
Really going to be a question, just more of praise that it's worked really, really, really well. And I really appreciate the fact that when you're building out your session, for instance, when any of my users, I tell them to go through the sessions, narrow it down to whatever they think, whichever sessions they think it would possibly be in, and then just carry over it. Actually, that's a good question. Is there maybe eventually a button to just basically copy the session over to the hunt tab? Or does that persist anyways?
It does persist.
Okay.
So if, for instance, you go to the sessions page and you search for, this specific IP, and then you go to the hunt, it says, hey, that's only one session that you'll be applying this search to.
Never mind, ahead of me then. But anyways, I was going to say after enabling this, the hunts page was pretty much completely filled up from just one user alone. So he really, really, really enjoys it and really appreciates the fact you added the button to rerun a job. So
Yes, thank
very
you
much
for that feature request. Any other questions?
Great.
Want this one?
Okay, so next we're going to talk about upcoming changes and what we're planning to do this year. So building and releasing. So first, last year when we talked, we had 4 release systems. And that was too many. And so now we're down to 3. So we're making progress. We do want to get to 1 eventually. But right now we have our Vagrant system to do the actual official releases. We have a Vagrant system to do nightly releases, which we've drawn a line in the sand. December 1st, those are going away no matter what. And then we use this open source system called Screwdriver that was developed by Yahoo to do our commit builds and our pull request builds. And that's our end goal. Our end goal is to move to Screwdriver for all of our builds. And we're getting close to being able to do that. There's a few more things that we need to do, mostly on our side, to get that done. But we soon will be using Screwdriver for everything. It's great in that it's all hooked into GitHub. It automatically starts up. It makes the really cool thing is it has all the hooks that makes the little check marks show up in GitHub that it passed or it didn't pass, all the tests passed. So we know we're doing true, CI/CD where we know what's going on, and when someone submits a pull request, we instantly know if all of our regression tests are passing or not. So that's great. And the other thing that we talked about last year and we didn't get to this year, so we hope to do it this year, is we really want to get some public repos and however you pronounce it, the PPAs for Ubuntu out there. So you can just type yum update or apt-get update. And it seems like bin tray is the way to go. So that is probably the way we're going to go. Let's say 90%. But things could always change. But we are hopefully going to have it so you can now just type apt-get update or yum update and it will just update, which is what it should do. So we're excited about that. Everybody keeps asking, what do we use here? We actually use the commit builds. We don't use the release builds. We use the commit builds. Currently we don't automatically deploy them everywhere. We have a lab environment that does happen to, but the rest of our systems we manually through Ansible update to the latest commit builds. So we are using the last commit builds here. So they are usually pretty well tested since we're using them. So here's our list of Moloch 2.0 ideas. None of these are promises, but this is kind of where we're headed. Would love to hear some feedback and discussion. We have time probably a few minutes now if people have ideas, and then definitely at the end of the day if people want to talk about their ideas, what we should be working on, big ideas. Obviously, we're going to be moving to Elasticsearch 6 and maybe 7 if that comes out. I don't know what their release plan, but I know 5, it's kind of going away. So 6 is going to be required soon. So all those of you who still haven't even updated to 1.0 Moloch, you're going to be behind. So you need to catch up, Matt and others. Number 2, add analyze fields back for Matt so that he can do that. So, yep. So we will be doing that so that we have analyze fields at least for some of the fields. Probably not all of them that used to have it. And we may or may not make it so that it's configurable by user, or sorry, by cluster. It turns out I looked into doing that. It's kind of hard, but maybe we'll be able to do it. Definitely want to add some new visualizations. So one of the reasons we originally hired Elyse was that she was going to add all these cool visualizations, but because JavaScript you have to rewrite every year, she hasn't gotten to it yet. But this is going to be the year, right? Okay, so we're going to make it this year, where we actually have the connections tab. We want to make it better. Like right now, it's okay. It's fun. You can drag it around. I don't know how useful it actually is, and we want to make it useful. I know it's good for printing out things and showing people, but and we've seen what the plugin for Kibana can do. They have some really cool ideas. There's some other tools out there that have some really cool ideas, and we have some really cool ideas. So we hope to make it a more usable system. And then we want to have a better flow view. Lots of tools like this that deal with flows have really neat, like, I don't even know what they're called, but like waterfall-ish graphs that are pretty and show things coming and going. It's a good description, right? Technical description. And so we're going to add some stuff like that, hopefully. Viewer, multi-viewer merge. Right now there's confusion about what multi-viewer is and how to use it and how many do I have to set up and why do I even need it and why is it different than the view proxy, and we'd like to get rid of it and merge the functionality so that you have checkboxes for yourself about which clusters you want to search against. So you just configure it with all the possible clusters, and you can say, I want to search A, B, and C, or just A and C, and it just does it. So right now, if you wanted to do that, you would have to have multiple multi-viewers, each with one that's AB, one that's AC, one that's ABC, et cetera, et cetera. And it's confusing for most people, and it's not doing what they actually want. So it seems like a UI where you can just say, hey, I want to search just these clusters would be easier. And then just having one thing to run would be easier instead of different things. New parsers, I keep getting asked about SIP over and over again. Thought telephones are dead, but I guess not. So we're looking at doing that. And then IMAP, I know people always ask about that. Users, how users work, we want to rethink that, see if there's a better way to do it, and then have Parliament support users. I know a lot of people want to do things to Parliament that requires users. William's favorite feature is and Matt has a feature similar to this, is a history of things and when and where they were observed, and keep that in a database. Make it so that Moloch can access that database. So you can say, when was the first time this domain seen? When was the first time this IP was seen? Last time they were seen. You can do some really cool things if you have that kind of information. One of the coolest things I would like to do if we have time is a T-Shark JSON view. So right now, when you spin open a session and you see the actual packet data, wouldn't it be awesome if you could click a button and say, show me the T-Shark view, and it would show all the packets, and it would show how T-Shark decodes it. If you've ever seen, what's the Wireshark cloud thing? CloudShark, maybe? Is that what it's called? If you've seen CloudShark, that's basically what it's doing. If you've seen, there's some other ones out there that's doing something very similar. You can just use, yes, the baby shark. You could go left shark or right shark. I don't know which one. We could have it all in there, and you could actually see, you could switch to a mode in Moloch where you're using the T-Shark thing to decode it. And it already supports this JSON or XML version. Those are kind of the big ideas that we're looking for. Any initial feedback? Microphone? 2 turntables?
You're awesome, Andy. That's my feedback.
Baby shark.
Well,
Art knows the song.
oh. I was just going to ask, since you're thinking of combining the functionality of viewer and multi-viewer, is there any ideas as far as maybe separating out how viewer functions? As far as currently viewer isn't just the GUI, but it also does things like PCAP deletion, so on and so forth. Have you thought about migrating that over to the capture or just something else so that you can have literally just one viewer? Or is that just too much of a pain in the butt and not worth it?
Okay, so you're talking about how you currently have to run a viewer on each node,
Correct.
and maybe moving that to capture or something else. We haven't thought about that. It might be possible. We could talk about it. The reason there is that clear separation right now is capture. I've always wanted to do just capture, never anything else. Never have to worry about anything. That's all it's doing. Plus, it's also easier to do some of this weird stuff in JavaScript than C. So, like integrating T-Shark, and that T-Shark is going to have to run on each node, is going to be much easier to have it on the viewer side because it's in JavaScript and that's easier. But maybe that thing that runs on each thing does no longer has to be viewer. Like it could be a new thing. I don't know what we call it, Moloch thingamajig, that runs on each box. But
Okay.
I'll start by saying my instance is not on the latest version either. So sorry if this has already been addressed or if folks are doing this differently. But how do folks archive off specific sessions they want to retain permanently? So if I'm doing malware analysis and I'm hunting and there's something that I really want to keep, I know you can download the PCAP and do things like that, but it'd be great to tag it for archive, have it moved off separately so it never rolls off despite what the INI file retention period is set to.
great question. Something we've never demoed here, and I guess we should now, is Moloch already supports this. You can have, there's two ways to do it, but the biggest thing is you can configure other Moloch clusters in your INI file, and that by configuring that will add a button to the Actions tab where you can say send, and it will copy it from one cluster to another cluster. The other thing you can do is you can do that in your cron jobs. So let's, for example, say RPC is being violated at your company and you want to save every instance of that. You can set up a secondary cluster, like maybe your investigative cluster. And then on your main cluster, you can go in the cron tab and say, anytime there's RPC or anytime there's VNC, automatically copy it over. And now it's automatically been copied over to your second cluster.
Boom.
Multi-ES resiliency. If you remember, we talked about this before. Is any hope to get that resolved in 2 or no?
So the idea is if we get rid of multi-viewer, that will go away. So you would now that you choose which clusters you want to search, it wouldn't have to search all of them. If you search one that's down, then that's kind of, I don't know what the right thing to do there is. I would probably present the user with an error saying, hey, you're trying to search cluster 1 and cluster 1 is down. Okay. All right. Gil's not here anyway, so. Gil, oh, Gil is here. Okay, so we'll do one more question. I thought I saw you leave. I missed you coming back. Okay, one more question first.
Okay. So, I mean, I like the concept of the hunt job. Like, so do you have any plan to distribute the load? Like, say, for example, I have 10 capture or 10 viewer nodes, and each of them, and at total, I have 100 sessions. So instead of one single node search for 100 sessions, so we can distribute it to 4 nodes. So do you have any plan for that? Searching and cron job, something like this.
Right. So what we didn't talk about is last year we had a contribution to Moloch, which was doing something similar to Hunt without UI. And that did it by going to all the nodes, pulling down the PCAP, and then searching locally on that one node that pulled all the PCAP. The way Hunt works now is there's one node that's just coordinating the effort, and it's sending it to all the capture nodes saying search. So the PCAP isn't flowing around the system because you don't want to do that, right? If you're searching, especially if you're searching the whole PCAP. So it is distributed. It's doing kind of what you said right now. Like you run one job, and it knows, oh, all these PCAPs are all over here. I'm going to go over there and say, just search this one, tell me if it matches or not. Okay.
Now I'm going to do another demo about Parliament. I don't know if this slide falls flat for anyone, but a parliament is a group of owls. So that's why we called it Parliament rather than Molochs or something weird. So last time I demoed Parliament, it was basically just a dashboard with links to all your Molochs. And now it's a lot more than that. So now you can search for your clusters. You can edit and update this page. As you can see, it is updating real time every 15 seconds. You can change this, so you can like keep it up on a board at work. And so when you see issues with your clusters, you can address them quickly. You can hover over stuff for more information. Like for instance, this is not receiving packets, so I can see when that was first noticed. Can you see this? It's a little bigger. You can see when it was first noticed, when it was last noticed. So it gives you a little more information. I don't like hidden features, but there's some things sprinkled in that are slightly hidden. So just hover over everything. So there's a few ways you can start up your Parliament. You can start it up with a password so that you can edit and update all of your information here. You can start it without a password that you can either configure later or just leave it in this mode. And lastly, you can open it up in dashboard only mode. It won't present you with a login button. All you can do is view your clusters and issues. You can't interact with anything. So I'm going to go ahead and log in so that we can actually do some stuff. So once you log in, you're presented with some more controls. You can acknowledge issues, which I'll talk about later, and you can ignore issues for a certain amount of time. And that's what you can do on this page. You can do more of that on the issues page, and I'll go over that in a second. You can also edit. So toggle on edit mode over here. And what you can do is you can build out your Parliament here. You can add groups. You can add clusters to your groups. You can edit everything. So for instance, if I want to edit this one, maybe I don't want to see all this data. I can uncheck boxes so I don't see data. I can update the description. I can even delete it from here. You can also drag and drop by clicking these handles and dragging and dropping things around. I hate drag and drop, but Andy made me. So here's the issues page, and this is all the issues for all your clusters in your Parliament. As you can see here, we've ignored these gray ones, so we're ignoring them until that time. And then if the issue arises after that time, it's going to turn back to red and alert you that that issue is still persisting. You can also acknowledge issues here. So for instance, say you see this issue, you can acknowledge it and go fix it, and after 15 minutes, that issue is going to go away automatically. You can also dismiss the issue or acknowledge the issue and then delete those issues later. And you can do this in bulk as well. So that's a pretty nifty tool, and Mark asked for that feature request. Yes, shout out to Mark. So these are all configurable settings. Well, most of these are configurable settings that you can configure here. So I'm going to start from the bottom up because we were just talking about acknowledged issues. So right now the default is to remove all acknowledged issues after 15 minutes. You can make this shorter or longer depending on your needs. So then you never have to click that delete button we talked about earlier. You just, the Parliament removes it for you. All issues are removed if they haven't been seen again after 60 minutes. So every 10 seconds, it's querying, it's saying, hey, what's up? And if after 60 minutes that issue still or does not exist anymore, if it's no longer experiencing that issue, it gets removed. So you're no longer seeing that on your issues page or on the Parliament page. These top two have to do with specific issues that you can encounter. The query timeout is the query to get the Elasticsearch status. If that doesn't return in 5 minutes, it will alert you that Elasticsearch is down, or 5 seconds, sorry. It'll alert you that Elasticsearch is down. And this is configurable if maybe you want to increase that or decrease that. And then capture nodes must check in every 30 seconds. So if we get a response and its timestamp is out of date by 30 seconds, it's going to alert you on this issue. You can update your password here. As we talked about earlier, we want to add the concept of users at some point. Right now, there's one user for Parliament, and that user is an admin user. And then notifiers. So this is where you can get alerted via Slack, on your phone, via Twilio, or email. These can be configured, toggled on and off. So all you need for Slack is your webhook URL, and then you can decide what specific issues you're alerted on. So these are the 5 types of issues that exist currently that you will be alerted on. So maybe you toggle, you just want to know when ES is down in Slack and when ES is red on your phone. So stuff like that. And that is it for Parliament. Any questions? Yeah.
What's the limit on number of clusters you can have in the dashboard?
There is no limit.
Yay.
Currently with this many.